they couldn't have planned it any better. General manager Stan Bowman revealed his plans for extensions on the blue line there, including one route the Oilers may take that may surprise you. We'll get into all that more today here on Oilers Digest as we get closer to 4,000 subscribers. Hope everybody's enjoying their day so far, enjoying, the start to their week. And if you're enjoying these videos, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below for any and all Oiler content. Now, let's get right into it with the two defensemen that you did see during the intro there, Jake Walman and Mattias Ekholm, in their plans with long-term lockup. Yes, Stan Bowman was a guest on Bob Stauffer's Oilers Now there, and he was asked not just about the Connor McDavid extension, but also two very important members of the Oilers blue line with Jake Walman in Mattias Ekholm there. Not just Mattias Ekholm and Jake Walman, but, Brett Kulak. That's another piece to the puzzle that has yet to be solved there. But we'll get into him during a later time, but we'll focus on Mattias Ekholm and Jake Walman there. Ekholm currently making $6 million heading into the season, and Jake Walman, for the way that he plays, severely underpaid there, making $3.4 million before the end of the year. Now, with Ekholm in Walman there, Stan Bowman is trying to get on top of things before the start of the season. Said we've had a couple of preliminary conversations with the agents, and I think that's one of the things that will happen over the next probably 6 weeks to see if it's something that lines up well for them and for us, and I'm pretty hopeful that we can do that. Stan Bowman went on to go say about how important these two were, Ekholm, but more importantly, Walman there after being acquired at the 2025 trade deadline from the San Jose Sharks there, and he hopes to see Walman in an Oilers jersey for a very, very long time, myself included. When you identify players that you like, that you think there's a future for, and they can help your team not only in the coming year but in the years beyond that, then I think it makes sense to try to get something done. So that's what's going to be something that we do over the next month and a half leading into training camp there. So Stan Bowman sort of setting a deadline on when he hopes to get this done by. Now, Mattias Ekholm, we all saw him, sort of in the Stanley Cup final there, not 100%, and it was very, very obvious there, but still a very important part of this Oilers team, even more so. You can see here, the Athletic ranked him as the fourth best defenseman in the entire Pacific Division there, below Shea Theodore, Evan Bouchard, in Quinn Hughes there. And for his contract projection here from Jason Greger, AFP Analytics has Ekholm signing a 2-year deal with a $6.5 million AAV. Now, this isn't set in stone. This is more so just a projection based off analytics there. You know what? 2-year deal at 6.5. I'd like the money a little bit lower there, but that's perfect. That's a perfect contract for Mattias Ekholm if you can't go any lower. I was a bit surprised at that number. The term makes sense, but Ekholm will be 36 when his new deal kicks in. Will he still be playing top pair minutes? I thought it'd be closer to 6 million, maybe even 5.75 million from the Athletic player card. We'll expand that a little bit here. His market value, 9.3 million there. I mean, obviously, that's not what he's going to make. That's just, again, based off analytics and when he's healthy. I don't argue that whatsoever there. The offensive side of the puck, fantastic. Defensive side of the puck, also fantastic there. I mean, he lets Evan Bouchard, handle a little bit more of the offensive creativity on that pair, but Mattias Ekholm does not hesitate whenever he does have the puck. Always that Swedish bomb at the left point there. Something that he sort of took over from Oscar Klefbom there. But again, Ekholm, healthy, fantastic, but it all boils down to, Father Time being undefeated there. I mean, Mattias Ekholm, again, will be 36 when he does get his new deal. And who knows if he'll drop off a cliff significantly, or if he'll outplay that and become, not the next Nick Lidstrom, but very, very close. I mean, no one can be the next Nick Lidstrom when he was, retired at 41 years of age and could probably still, in the year 2025, win the Norris Trophy there. So the Oilers also have to monitor not just his, his age, but also his health issues there. Who knows if, again, what he suffered there during the regular season heading into the playoffs will become a recurring issue. Once again, you can see there the entire season there from October to the end of the Stanley Cup final there. His goals against per 60 goal percentage and expected goal percentage. It was the same old Ekholm from October to January there. Mind you, November got a little bit ugly there. 3.25 goals against per 60 when the Oilers went on that slide. And then 48% goal percentage, even though, the expected goal percentage was even across the board. 60, 59, 59, 64, and then in February in the playoffs, awful. But, after the Four Nations face-off, it seemed to be since Christmas. I mean, the entire team suffered an illness during the Christmas season there, but Ekholm just seemed to linger on for the rest of the year and then suffer that injury after the Four Nations, and then who knows what his status was going to be heading into the playoffs, if he was going to play, if he wasn't going to play at all. And then he made his debut in the last game against the Dallas Stars there, and then just did not look the same old Matthias Ekholm during the Stanley Cup final there. So again, 2 years at 6.5, great. I mean, it's fairly low risk. I mean, when he's done, he'll be 38 years old, and I think that'll be it for him after that. After the 35-year mark there, you can see it drops off significantly. Jeff Petrie, Chris Letang, Brent Burns, and Ryan Suter were the only defensemen last year to play over the age of 37 years old. So a very, very small number of guys there. But even, Chris Tanev got a long-term deal for some reason, 4.5 from the Toronto Maple Leafs there, 35 years of age, and that doesn't end until 40. But not just him, but Brad Marchand, 37 years of age, and a 6-year deal there from the Florida Panthers, 5.25. So who knows what Matthias Ekholm will get from the Oilers there. But I'd love to, see him on the team. Great veteran presence in the locker room. He's been the perfect partner for Evan Bouchard, as Evan Bouchard has sort of blossomed into his own type of player in the Oilers locker room and on the ice there, and he will get much, much better there. But for Jake Walman, who knows, who knows also what he's going to get. I've seen multiple projections, short-term deal, medium-term deal, long-term deal. Anything will work, in my opinion, for Jake Walman. I mean, he's just that type of guy. You can give him anything, and I'd be happy with it too. But there is something that the Oilers can do that nobody else can do, and it maybe might relate more to a guy like Jake Walman. But they could offer an 8-year contract extension, as we have shorter terms coming to the next collective bargaining agreement, which takes place next summer. This is the final season where you can offer players on your own team that are, impending free agents an 8-year deal there. With the contract term length in the next CBA, max contract term will be 7 years for re-signing with the same team and 6 years for external free agent additions. This compares to 8 and 7 years, respectively, under the current CBA there. But Bob Stauffer predicted a $6 million AAV for Jake Walman. He suggested that the Oilers have the ability to lock him up long-term, maybe for around $6 million AAV there. Now, if that's an 8-year contract, I'd prefer that to be a little bit lower, as what the saying goes. I mean, the longer term equals a lower AAV in theory there, where you can sort of front load a contract, and then a shorter term equals a higher AAV annual average value there. That's something what guys like Austin Matthews, maybe even Connor McDavid will take. Evan Bouchard, perfect example. I mean, 4 years at 10.5 there to get a bigger number with shorter term there. But for Jake Walman, his is a fun one, contract projection, I should add. He had a great playoffs. We have him at 5 years at 6.5. A close comparable contract is Neil Pionk there. AFP projections also on a Jake Walman contract extension. Now, that would be perfect. I mean, 5 years at 6.5, that would end when he's, I do believe, 35 years of age, which, of course, is where, defensemen, again, start to drop off there. His market value is $8.4 million from The Athletic there. But again, ever since he came into the Oilers, he's just a fireball of energy. He propelled not just Darnell Nurse, but John Klingberg there during his tenure so far as an Oiler. And then the defensive side of things, it's sort of disrespecting him a little bit. I mean, he's not, a total shutdown defenseman, but, I've seen him, hold his own on the defensive side of things there. But as I mentioned, signing Jake Walman to an 8-year deal, it would be very, very risky there for the Oilers. Again, you have to expect him to play top 4 minutes heading into his 38-year old season there. And you can see above 35, not a whole lot of active NHL D-men, and, even less active top 4 D-men past the age of 35. One of them, Matthias Ekholm, who we just talked about there. So the Oilers will have to expect Jake Walman to be, a pretty good guy for the first 4 years, or pretty steady defenseman for the first 4 years. And after that, it's a little bit of a gamble there. Who knows, maybe they could front load that contract and make it easier to trade or buy out as it goes on. And Sam Bowman certainly doesn't want a repeat of the Brent Seabrook contract there. Also 30 years of age in 2016 there. Signed him for 8 years at $6.88 million there. And Seabrook only played 4 years of that contract before it was traded to to the Tampa Bay Lightning there for the LTIR cap relief. Shocker. It's Tampa Bay who did that there, but 8-year deal, anything, past 6 years when he's in his 30s, again, very, very questionable there. But for a guy like Jake Walman, I think he could hold up until the very, very end. Again, not a very physical guy. And, offensive defensemen, the older ones seem to stick around the longest there. You can see, guys like Chris Letang and Erik Karlsson getting a little bit older. Roman Josi as well. 34 years of age. The offensive guys stick around the longest there. And Jake Walman could be one of those players. But that is it for today's video, folks. Make sure you let me know down in the comments what your preferred contracts would be for Ekholm and Walman. There are lots of numbers to be thrown around there, and I'm very, very curious to see what you all would have to offer them for contracts. But enjoy the rest of your Monday, folks. Take care. I'm Matt.